Hi guys! So today's tutorial is about how I got my Mermaid Galaxy hair. I want to start off this video with two disclaimers before I talk you through how to do this yourself. The first one is, if you don't have a lot of experience dyeing your own hair, this is not the tutorial you want to start with. I've been dyeing my own hair and other people's for close to half my life, and this process still took me 7 hours. Unless you really know what you're doing, you're more likely to be disappointed than love what you wind up with. The second disclaimer is that your hair will not look like this after you dye it. What you're seeing here, and what those of you who requested the video after seeing me on Instagram have seen, is what happens after about 2 months of fade out. When you dye your hair is going to look solidly one color. Yes, you're using 3 different dyes, which we'll talk about later in the video, but it will be solidly one color. It's not a big deal and it's not the end of the world. It'll still look really cool, but to get the different blendings of blues and purples, you have to wait for it to fade out. And you'll still look cool in the meantime, so it's not really that bad. The first thing you need to do in order to get this kind of hair color is you need to absolutely bleach your hair, even if you're blonde. That's one of the big questions I always get is, I'm blonde, I don't need to bleach my hair, right? In order to get this kind of hair color, your hair needs to be pure white. If you're blonde, you can do what I do and just go through one bleach process and one toner process. If you're naturally a darker hair shade, you'll probably need a couple bleach processings and a couple toner processes. Either way, no matter your natural hair color, once you have your hair to that pale yellow, you need a purple-based toner to strip all that yellow and make your hair white. I recommend Matrix So Silver shampoo over any other toning product, including Wella and Clairol Color Lights, which are all really popular, because Matrix is the least damaging out of everything I've ever used. I'm going to leave a list of all the products mentioned in the video in the description later on. So once your hair is purely bleached white, you need to make sure it's completely dry, and that's for those of you who immediately want to put the dye in right after bleaching. I personally would wait a few days just to give your hair a break because you really want to be gentle with your hair, because dyeing it this much in such a degree is really damaging no matter how healthy your hair is. Bleached white hair, you can start the color process, and the easiest way to do this is if you have really layered hair. What I did is I dyed my hair each color in different layered sections, and it made the whole process a lot quicker. So the first thing I did was I parted my hair. I always part my hair to the far right so that my fringe covers one eye. And on the right side, I have much shorter layers because I usually tease it up like a scene kid. And then I have my long pieces. I took all those short pieces and I made a straight line part going straight to the back, and I clipped them up on my head. I wanted the top of my fringe on my left side to match that short layered side on the right, so I went from the arch of my eyebrow and parted a line straight through. As you can see, there are some longer pieces and they are dark purple, dark blue, and a lighter blue. That's completely okay. That's just what's going to happen when you're washing out the dye. It runs and it blends and it gets messy, but that's exactly what you want to get all these different tones and shades to blend properly. So don't worry if you see a little purple where the blue should be or a little dark blue where the light blue should be. It's not that big a deal. It's exactly what you want. Once your hair is layered into those 2 initial top sections on either side, you're going to leave everything on this side alone. So whichever side you part your hair on, you're just going to have 2 sections. On the opposite side, for me, my left, you're going to have 3 different sections of 3 different dyes. Once you have that initial top layer clipped up, you're going to take the medium long layer, and for that I went from the corner of my mouth straight through and took all of this. Then you just clip that up and leave the longest layer be. I used 3 different dyes in my hair. The first one was Splat Aqua Rush, and then for the rest of my hair, I used 2 different dyes by the brand Sparks. I used Sparks Blue Envy and Sparks Purple Passion. Splat Aqua Rush is pretty easy to find. You can find it in most Walgreens, sometimes CVS. Sparks is a little bit harder to get a hold of. I know Hot Topic started carrying certain colors, but I usually buy mine from the beauty supply store or Sally's because it is a lot harder to get a hold of, and if you order it online, it's really expensive. But basically, Splat Aqua Rush is exactly as it sounds. It's going to come out a light blue. Sparks Blue Envy will come out the deep blue. So basically what I did is I dyed from top to bottom with my hair. I find that's easiest, quickest, and the least messy, and you're the least likely to wind up with a chunk of purple dye right here because that won't blend. So I strongly suggest dyeing from top to bottom. It makes it a lot easier on you. Basically, I put on the gloves and I applied the Splat Aqua Rush as directed to those short layers. I let them out and I combed the dye upwards through my hair. And it's okay if it falls. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be putting a darker blue over it, so it's nothing to worry about. Once you have it thoroughly saturated, and if you're like me, you might want 2 boxes because I have really thick hair. If you don't have really thick hair, you'll be fine with 1, but if you have long or thick hair, you might want 2 just in case. But once all of that is really covered, just clip it all up on top of your head. You'll look like a weird unicorn for a while. It's not a big deal. Then you're going to go back to the side that you usually have your part on, and while all this is clipped up, you're going to apply Sparks Blue Envy. You're just going to cover it from that initial part in your hair down, really thoroughly, saturate it as much as you can. Once that's done, you can just leave it where it is. I usually wear smock so that it doesn't stain your clothes, but if you can't, wear something you don't care about because you will wind up looking like a Smurf. Then, once you have your entire parted section done, you're going to switch over to the side where you usually have your fringe. You're going to take that middle layer and you're going to apply the Sparks Blue Envy thoroughly from the part down. Once that's done, you're just going to clip it up and have another weird side unicorn horn. And then you're going to take the Sparks Purple Passion and apply it to the remaining hair. Now, I do not listen to packaged dye. Packaged dye usually tells you to leave the dye on for 45 minutes. And if you read a lot of dye reviews online or even on product pages, a lot of people complain like, oh my gosh, this only lasted 2 weeks. This is supposed to be long-lasting hair dye. The difference between getting your hair colored at a salon and doing it yourself is you don't have a high-powered heat dryer. A hair dryer is not going to do the same thing as one of those chairs that flop down over your face. Those heat up the dye and really cook it so that the hair process speeds up much faster. You might be under the dryer 15 to 45 minutes, which is how long the dye boxes advise you to leave it on your hair. If you do that, but you don't have that heat, your hair is going to fade out in anywhere from 2 weeks to a month and a half. And it doesn't matter how bleached or unbleached your hair is, that initial process will disappear very quickly. I leave dye in my hair for at least 3 hours. So I strongly suggest, especially if you have dark natural hair, leaving it in for over 3. I wouldn't go more than 5, but leave it in for at least 3 hours. Now, once that dye is left sitting there for 3 hours, then you're just going to wash it out. Make sure you wash in cold water. Make sure you wash it out as much as possible because if you don't, your hair will continue to stain things. Wash it out thoroughly. Use a paraben-free, alcohol-free, and sulfate-free shampoo. I really recommend anything by Not Your Mother's or the Organics brand, but make sure it's organic sulfate-free. And then you're going to deep condition. Same thing, I really trust organics over anything else. And you're going to want to use a protein treatment and a moisture treatment. I recommend Redken Extreme Leave-In treatment just in case. Just use it for the first 2 or 3 days of showering because if you over-proteinize your hair, you're going to damage it. Put in the moisture treatment once or twice a week. It's just a spray. I use Infusium 23. And it'll just keep your hair healthy because this is a lot for your hair to go through. I mean, the actual process of combing it through your hair to make sure every strand is colored and parting it and bleaching it All that takes 4 hours on its own, let alone leaving it in for 3 hours. So you really want to take good care of your hair. After that, you can straighten it, curl it, do whatever you want. But that's pretty much it. That's all you really have to do. You just have to be patient, because when I first came out of the shower, I was expecting my hair to look like this. And instead, it was all dark, dark, solid blue. And I'm really pale, so I looked kind of like a zombie. It was not good. But once it faded out, it became this really cool, mermaidy, galaxy-looking hair. And it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and if you know what you're doing. Just be careful not to damage your hair, and really just wrap your whole house like Dexter would. I mean, this dye, if it stains your floor, is not coming out. So I go full Dexter Morgan and wrap everything with plastic wrap and garbage bags, just to be safe. But that's pretty much all you need to do to get this hair, and I hope that helps. I know some of you asked for a tutorial on how I cut and style my hair as well, but because I'm dyeing my hair tomorrow and I am actually getting rid of all this blue and purple, I am not straightening my hair or teasing it right now until that process is done, just because I want my hair to be completely fresh for the dye process so it doesn't damage anything. But that video will come next week after my new hair comes. But I hope this helps, and if any of you have any questions, you know you can DM me on Instagram or leave a comment and I'll try and help. Bye!